up and up and up. Yeah, please, go ahead, right there.
Julia Johnson, Fox News Digital. I'm curious, what advice did you give JD Vance ahead of his debate tonight?
Have fun. I said, JD, have fun. It's true. JD, that's right. We have a big deal going on, and I said, JD, have a lot of fun. He's a smart guy. He's been amazing. He's been a real warrior. Top student at Yale. He was a very brilliant guy in so many different ways. And, he's a very hard worker. He goes around and he's not afraid of the media. He'd stand here and he'd answer all of your questions. I have a lot of people that wouldn't do that. They don't like doing that. They get shouted at, and they don't like being shouted at. But JD's very much a warrior. Very much a warrior. Thank you very much.
On oil prices, Mr. President, on oil prices, thank you. Iris Tao with NTD here. The crude oil prices rose by over 2% today after the latest Iranian attacks on Israel. Are you concerned about major oil supply disruptions affecting the U.S.? And do you think Americans are prepared for that? And also, secondly, on China, you mentioned China. Do you think China might be trying to seize this moment, to take advantage of this moment, try to plan an attack on Taiwan and Indo-Pacific theater? Thank you so much.
Well, you never know with President Xi. I had a great relationship, as you know, with President Xi. He's a very smart guy. So I don't want to read his mind, but he's very smart, and he has a way of doing things that's very good for China. And he's at the top of his game. Our people are not at the top of their game, so you never really know. I think that China's going to be a very interesting subject over the next couple of years. China's having a lot of problems right now. The economy is having some big problems. They just issued very big stimulus, but it's someplace, and he's a very, people get upset when I say it, but he's a very fierce person. He really is. He's a fierce warrior. He's a fierce challenger. But I had a very good relationship with him. Okay, a couple of more. Go ahead, please. Go ahead, behind you.
You said two can play at that game when talking. Thank you. You said two can play at that game when talking about the Department of Justice. How would you use the DOJ if you're reelected?
Well, I think it's terrible what they've done. They've weaponized government to an extent that's nobody's ever seen before. It's done in third world countries, banana republics. But, like as an example, they said, the documents case. Well, he was guilty. They basically said he's guilty, but he's incompetent. He's allowed to be president, but he's not allowed to go to court. It was a strange ruling. But I was exonerated from my case. That was a big case, as you know. Down in Florida, we had I don't know the judge, but a brilliant judge, totally brilliant judge. And I was exonerated and fully exonerated. And I can only say this, that, when I stand here and I watch the questions being asked by people that are somewhat hostile, many people that are fair. You have a lot of different talents in this room. I was just thinking to myself, all I want to see is fairness. Our country needs you so badly. The media, you're like the policemen and women of the world. You're so important. You keep politicians honest. You keep politicians from doing really bad things. It's so important. And it's so important that the media be fair and really improve, because I watch how unfair it is and how one-sided it is. And you need the media to really buck up in this country, because nobody's ever seen anything like it. And I can tell you, I don't want any favors. I just want fairness. I want like a level playing field. And if we can get the media back to a level playing field, that's going to do a lot for the good of our country, because we have to make a comeback. Our country is a failing nation. This is a failing nation. We're failing at the borders. We're failing at everything we're doing. You look at the numbers. We lost $2 trillion this year. $2 trillion. People don't report that. Our country, we have a deficit of $2 trillion. It was never a deficit in the history of the world like that. And one of the reasons I'm going to bring Elon Musk in to negotiate a lot of that. He's very good at it, and he's a great guy, and he loves the country. He really loves the country. It's not easy for him to do an endorsement. He endorsed me. But, Brian, I would say it's not easy for him to do an endorsement, right? He's got a lot of different factions, a lot of different sides. But he wants to save the country. And, I tell you the airplane story. I could tell you 20 other stories just like it. we have to be a lot different. We have to run a lot different. We are a failing nation, but we're not going to be a failing nation for long. I predict we're going to have I hope we're going to have a great victory, a big victory, and then we're going to straighten out our country. We're going to seal up our borders, and we're going to let a lot of people into our country, but they're going to come in legally. We had Remain in Mexico, and for some reason he voided that immediately, and she did. I guess she did because she was in charge of the border. And I hate to see that when somebody was so bad at the border and then tries to pretend like she wasn't even involved. This was the worst border in the history of the world, not here. The history of the world. There's never been a border like that. I always say third world countries would have used sticks and stones to keep people out if that happened to them. There's never been anything like it. And the press doesn't want to report about it. And they've got to report about it. It's a big story. To me, it's the biggest story. When you allow 13,000 murderers into our country and they're free to kill, they're free to kill. These are people that are rough, tough, horrible people. It's not going to be a positive thing. When you allow thousands of terrorists from very tough countries into our country, they're here. We don't even know who they are. We know they're terrorists, and we know something about some of them, but generally we don't. But we know there are thousands of terrorists let into our country. Drug dealers are in our country at levels we've never seen before. We're really, we're a very sick country, but we're going to figure it out, and we're going to get it fixed. Yeah, go ahead.
You've got one of the biggest. I predict you have one of the biggest rallies coming up on Saturday in Butler, attendance-wise. Can you give me a preview of that and what's going through your mind going back to Butler?
Butler, that's right, it's going to be on Saturday, and it's going to be an amazing rally. Butler has become quite a famous place. It's like a monument now. People ride through the streets of Butler looking at it as though it were a monument. It's very important. We lost a great person. Corey, the fireman, and two other people were supposedly going to die, and they ended up living because of great doctors up there. These doctors, two separate doctors, one was just hit badly, and the other was hit really badly. They were both, first thing I said is, how many people are dead? Because, we had a massive crowd as far as the eye could see, and there was no empty areas, so when bullets are fired, they're going to hit people. And these are AR-15 bullets. They were going over my head. I heard them. I didn't know you could hear bullets, but they are 4,000 miles an hour or something, and they're going over my head. And I was amazed that they just said three. They said probably 3 dead. That was my only, and then 2 of the 3. And I'm very happy to report a friend of mine. Some people have heard this, but he said, I'd like to make a contribution. These people live good. There's no crime there. It's beautiful in many ways, but not a lot of money. And they had a great relationship. Corey and his wife was really nice, and 2 daughters. He was killed jumping on top of the daughters. He didn't want the daughters to be hit. And when he jumped on top, he got hit. He got hit really badly. There was a National Guardsman that was seated 9 seats away, and we're going to give him something for what he did. Corey was hit in the head, bleeding profusely, and this National Guardsman went over to Corey, saw that he was still living, and gave him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. And nobody's ever seen anything like it. And it was tough. And then Corey died. But for that man to do that was amazing, actually. So, I'm very pleased to report. So a friend of mine, rich guy, member of Mar-a-Lago, said, I'd like to make a contribution to the family of Corey, the firefighter. And I said, well, that would be nice. And I said, where is it? He gives me a check, and it was for $1 million. I gave it to Corey's wife, $1 million. But bigger than that, we did a GoFundMe, and I think we picked up about $6 million, and we're giving her, I guess, about 4. She'll end up with about $5 million. And she said to me, I'd rather have my husband. I understood that. It was such a beautiful thing to say. But she said, I'd rather have my husband. Now, they never saw $1 million or $5 million. This is a tremendous amount of money for them. And the other gentlemen are getting more than $1 million apiece. And we went out to We went out, and that was the public. I mean, it's amazing. So we're going to be there on Saturday. It's going to be a really big event, and it's going to be something. We'll celebrate the life of Corey, I think, and I want to celebrate the two gentlemen that got hit really bad. I mean, you know, and we should celebrate their doctors. Who would think you go up into sort of the country, right? The country, and you have two doctors that took two men that were so badly wounded, and they saved their lives, right? Just very talented people. There are a lot of talented people in our country. So that'll be exciting. And the question is, how am I going to start the speech? And I think I was going to say, as I was saying, because that's about where I was. I was very early, and if I didn't have that chart, which I always bring up, I rarely bring it up, but when I do, it's always at the end of the speech, and it's on my left. And here it was the first moment of the speech, and it was on my right. Had I not made that turn, I would not be speaking to you people today, and some of you would be extremely happy about that, I suspect. But I want to thank you all, and I'm now going to Texas, going to Houston, and we have some big things there, and we're traveling. I think I'm booked every single day for 33 days, and as you probably have heard, I've worked for 17 or 18 days, wouldn't you say, in a row, and I'm working even when I'm not working, but we're doing a lot of things. We made a lot of different speeches. We're starting up the rallies again, very big. And we have more enthusiasm than we've ever had. And all we want to do is very simple. We want to make America great again. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you.